What happened when leaders put everything but their health first? Burnout? Poor decisions? Teams that suffer the ripple effect? Let's explore together why prioritizing your health is not selfish but strategic. Welcome back to season 2 of Leading Intentionally, where we dive deep into the core of what it takes to lead with purpose, passion, and presence. I'm your host, Carmen Paredes, and in this season, we are exploring 3 transformative themes: enduring mindset, exceptional leadership, and empowering your essence. This season, we are on a journey to uncover the mental fortitude required to endure through challenges while maintaining a vision for success. We'll decode the elements that elevate leaders from great to exceptional, those qualities that inspire, motivate, and create lasting impact. And we're embracing the power of authenticity, learning to own your essence in a way that empowers yourself and others. In each episode, we'll share insights, stories, and practical tips to help you transform your leadership style and thrive in both your personal and professional life. So whether you are leading a team, managing a project, or steering your own career, get ready to elevate your approach and lead intentional. Let's get started. Welcome to another episode of Leading Intentionally. Today, we have speaker sister of mine, and she is a health industry veteran, best-selling author, speaker, podcaster, and coach. Esther helps people tap into their true potential by showing them how putting their health first skyrocket their careers and transform their lives. She walks the walk of balancing her well-being, career, and personal lives, and gives audiences practical tools, renewed energy, and a clear path to leveling up their health and their lives. Welcome to the show, Esther. So nice to see you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So I'm gonna start with this because it's so authentic. I was telling Esther before we started recording that because we used to attend these workshops together, that every time I see my under the desk treadmill not being used, I think of her because she was always on the treadmill when we were in these meetings. And I'm like, what's your excuse, Carmen? So it is such an anchor, but it's cute. It's cute. I smile, and some of the times I pull it and said, okay, well, you can do it. You can do it. But I agree. Like, it's such an important thing to prioritize your health as a leader. And I'm gonna say I probably suffer the consequences of not doing it before. So share with us, like, why do you think? I mean, why do you know? What have you seen that prioritizing health in leadership it's so important?
Yeah. I want to start by acknowledging that I know it's not easy to do that. I am a business owner and I know how tempting it is to let work kind of take over everything, especially when you're under deadlines or people are relying on you. It's just so easy to tell yourself, after I get this thing done, then I'll stop and have lunch, or I will just wake up early and get this workout in, except then you're exhausted from working late. And, it's very easy to slip out of or not develop these habits in the first place. So if you're feeling down on yourself because you feel like you've let yourself go, please don't. It happens to all of us. And the important thing to remember is that it's not irreversible. You can just acknowledge, I need to make some changes and I need to prioritize my health more, and you can start doing that. So I'll start with, my personal experience. I've been coaching for almost 20 years and I work with primarily women in all sorts of industries and capacities. And one of the most prevalent things is this sort of tendency to put everyone and everything in front of our own needs. Our kids, our spouses, our work, our community, volunteer opportunities, and to tell ourselves, then once I've taken care of all that, then I'll get to myself. And we're left with the dregs. We're scraping the bottom of the barrel. There's nothing left for ourselves. And although it can feel like a big shift, the reality of it is no one is getting the best of you if you're not taking care of yourself.
Mhm.
So you might think that you're being more productive because you're up from, from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. working on stuff. But you're just not. You could be getting more done in less time with more energy and a better attitude if you were feeding yourself well, if you were moving your body, if you were prioritizing sleep, if you practice stress management techniques. And this isn't just, my personal experience. There is a ton of research to support the importance of a healthy lifestyle. There was a study published in the Journal of Occupational and Environmental Medicine that found that employees who exercise regularly, maintain a healthy lifestyle, don't smoke, drink, minimally, eat well, et cetera, are 25% more likely to experience higher job satisfaction, get promoted faster, and make more money. There are studies that show that people who are healthy have a higher quality of life. They can extend their life expectancy by up to 14 years.
Mhm.
They have lower levels of stress and burnout. They're better equipped to handle demanding work environments. They feel more connected to the people around them and less stressed. And it just goes on and on. So health is not a luxury or a nice to have, or I'll get to it when. It should really be the cornerstone of whatever you're doing. If you feel like you're struggling in certain areas of your life, health will help you not. If you feel like you're thriving, making your health a priority will help ensure that you continue to for as long as possible. I cannot see a single reason not to make health a priority.
uh, there's so many. I have to be writing things like, oh, this and that, because there's so many things that come to mind. Well, first, I've been guilty of prioritizing everything but myself in the past, which led me to burn out really, really bad. I almost literally died. And it's curious that, because I didn't plan this, but the post I put as we're recording this in LinkedIn today, I'm talking about burnout and how I almost died. But when I look back, I felt guilty about doing it. And I felt guilty about taking time away from my kids to take care of myself. I felt guilty about, um, you know, taking longer to deliver a deadline to take care of myself. And okay, super shallow. But for me, my hair doesn't look like this when I shower. And it's like excuses, right? It's like, oh, but if I go work out, then my hair isn't gonna look pretty, and then or I have to get up super early because I have to add another 90 minutes to wash my hair, and I cannot wash my hair every day because it gets dry. I mean, like all these excuses. And obviously, as someone who is in social media all the time, but before, when I was in a suit in corporate, presenting and having meetings of high caliber, I couldn't just go with my curly, wavy hair to the office. Maybe I could, but I just didn't. So, all these excuses. But here's something I wanted to share. Um, in a previous marriage, I used to feel so jealous of my ex-husband because he would take care to go to the gym, and it would make me so mad. But I didn't know back then. Like now, after doing all the work on myself, I understand that that's what I would get mad, is because inside I wanted to be able to take that time, but I didn't know how to because I felt guilty. And so this is all the reasons why you want to listen to Esther and like do it.
It's really interesting. First of all, your hair always does look
Oh my
amazing.
god.
I often notice that about you. It's really interesting. I just interviewed a career coach for my podcast, and one of the things we were talking about was what she had noticed in her corporate career, the differences between men and women. And one of the things that stood out to her was that men are better at keeping their commitments to themselves. That if
Mhm.
they say they're going to go to, a networking event, or they have, a gym, a gym date,
Mhm.
they will do it. They will say, oh, this needs to be rescheduled, or I can't do that. Whereas women are just very quick to be like, oh, well, I was going to do this other thing, but like, it's okay. I don't have to.
Mhm.
And yeah, it can, our reactions to things say more about us than they do other people. So when we notice being resentful of, oh, my husband gets to work out, yeah, it's not that he's working out, it's that you're not, and you want to be. Um, and I love what you said because it's so relatable. What I always talk about with clients is how we can either use our energy to find excuses or
Mhm.
to find solutions.
Yeah.
But the time we spend doing one takes away from the other. And you're not wrong that all of those things are legitimate. If my hair takes a certain amount of time to look a certain way, and now I'm using that time to exercise, like what am I going to do? There are things that do need to be thought through. But the first thing I think is so important to remember is that you have to want there to be a way. If you tell yourself it just can't be done, then it can't be. But I would be willing to bet that when you have your work role, when you have your work hat on, when you are in the role of a leader, you are a problem solver. Your employees come to you and say, we're facing this challenge, we're not going to be able to make this deadline. You immediately start running through, what can we do about this? How can we make it happen anyway? So I think it's so important to remember that you have that skill and you can apply it to this area of your life too. So one thing that I think could be really helpful is just kind of doing this brain dump exercise of lay out there, kind of like you would do in a board meeting with that big roll of paper and like, no idea is bad, just shout them out. And you got the whiteboard marker. But start saying like, okay, what are all of the possible solutions, as outlandish as they might be? Well, I could shave my head, that I wouldn't have to worry about it. Probably not the route I'm going to go, but it is a possibility. And then you can sort of work back and find something. And I think too, we tend to have certain like criteria or stipulations in mind of exercise has to look like this. I
Right.
have to be a sweaty mess. It has to be at least an hour.
Yeah.
And that's just not the case.
And
So,
it
okay,
has to
there's
be every day. And so that's one of the things
exactly.
I tell myself. It's like, you know what? One day a week is better than no days a week.
That's exactly it. Meet yourself where you are.
Yeah.
And if, yeah, so start, I often encourage that people start on weekends. You don't have as many, I mean, I guess if you have kids in sports and stuff like that,
Yeah.
it may feel more difficult, but look at your own personal schedule and figure out what's one day that I could do 20 minutes. Base it around your hair washing schedule,
Yeah.
or do something like yoga or strength training where you're not going to be super sweaty, and just start grooving the habit. And
Mhm.
what often happens is once you start doing things and once you start to reap the benefits of them, you're much more willing to then try other things of, all right, well, maybe I could do a short spin workout and just like see what my hair looks like. And you're a lot more willing to experiment with things.
Yeah. It really comes down to, do you want to do it or not, right? Like, have you
Yep.
found the reason? Have you make it a priority? And that's something that really needs to come, hopefully not with a wake up call, but because you want to do it. But you're right. Like, when you cannot find a solution, it's because it hasn't made it to the top of your list.
That's exactly it. And the hardest part is getting started, because when you're
Mhm.
already not feeling great about yourself, you don't
Yeah.
have a lot of energy, especially in the winter when it's cold and dark. It's hard to remember that this is going to make you feel better.
Yeah.
And there are all sorts of strategies you can employ to get yourself to take action when you don't feel like it. Outside accountability can help a ton, whether it's a
Mhm.
coach or a coworker or a friend or a gym where you have to sign up for a class. But reminding yourself that you may not want to do the thing right now, but you do want the result of having done it.
Right.
And there's a term I use in coaching called parenting yourself.
Mhm.
And sometimes you just need to be the adult and you
Yeah.
need to give yourself a stern talking to and say, too bad that you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing. And you just kind of, give yourself a little bit of tough love. And inevitably, you will feel better and be glad you did it.
Yes. Always. This has not been a time in my life where I actually have worked out or, eating healthy for more than a day. And I eat very healthy. But like, that just the compounding effect of those things, sleeping more than 6 hours or 4 hours, you're right, like that I have not definitely felt better and be more productive. You can think clear. Your energy is better. You show up differently, right? Like, coffee is great. I mean, I love coffee. It tastes great to me. But the reality of the matter is that if that's the only source of energy that you rely on, I mean, you're going to burn and crash, by 10 o'clock. There was a time in my life that my teams used to joke, but now I look back and it's like, that's kind of sad. That they will come into my office and ask, like, is that cup number 1 or 2? Because they knew that before the second one, the conversation wasn't going to be very productive.
You make a really important point, which is that unfortunately, living a healthy lifestyle in North America right now is not the majority. And there's a lot of kind of our culture that's geared around glorifying lack of sleep, being chronically stressed, over consuming alcohol, over consuming
Mhm.
caffeine.
Mhm.
And it's just so ingrained in us that that's another reason that making these lifestyle changes can be hard, is because it makes you an outlier.
Mhm.
If you are no longer the person that is talking to everybody about coffee, oh, it's, the day hasn't started until I have my third cup, then you might find it harder to relate to people. Or if you're no longer engaging in like mommy wine culture,
Mhm.
you might feel like you don't have as much in common with your friends anymore. And there's this strong kind of status quo bias where you just sort of get pulled back to what the average person around you does. And it's so important to acknowledge that if you want something that most people don't have, if you want to wake up and feel good and have energy the entire day, if you don't want to be irritable and feel either hungover or, exhausted all the time, if you want to feel physically strong, if you want your mind to be sharp, if you want to be this confident, powerful leader, you need to be willing to do things that other people aren't.
Yeah.
If the cream rises to the top and you want to be part of it, you can't be looking left and right to see what the people around you are doing. You need to be looking to the people who are in the place that you want to be and saying, what have they done? What qualities do they have? What are the attributes that have made them successful? And a lot of those people will be prioritizing their health. And it helps so much to normalize the behaviors that you want to adopt in your own life, because it's true that we are very heavily influenced by the people around us. So if you feel like the people around you aren't beacons of health, start looking for people who are.
Yeah.
Start finding meetup groups or activity groups or people that you can turn to see like, okay, this doesn't have to make me feel weird. Being
Yeah.
somebody who cares about what I put in my body and making sure that I move frequently doesn't have to be, perceived as a negative, and be really intentional about curating your social network.
The other thing is, as leaders, you have so much influence and power to help your teams shape their behaviors. Like one of the things I used to do, we end up, unfortunately, in corporate America, the culture of lunch meetings became ridiculous, right? And so I noticed at the beginning it was all pizzas and sandwiches and whatnot. And when it was my meetings, it was like the healthy ones, right? Like, no, we're gonna have a salad. So that's something that people can do. You, as a leader, you have the power. If that's your medicine, if you buy the story that we're telling you, that's something you can do. I also applaud companies that not only reimburse gym memberships for their employees, but also have gyms on site. Long time ago, when I worked for Johnson and Johnson, it was great because they had a gym on site. They had massages. They had meditation rooms. This is like 20 years ago, and it's so easy to say, I'm stuck in this project. Like I'm not thinking clearly anymore and I'm just gonna take a breather. Or, just for me, so I used to do karate. When I was stressed at the office and my dojo was like across the street, I would go and grab a private lesson with sensei. And you better bet that when I came back, I was as clear, as sharp as possible. So what can you do as a leader to influence your people to be healthy as well? Because you all together are going to be more productive, not just you, not just the one person, right? So I wanted to talk about the FITT formula. That's how you teach leaders how to take this to the next level. How do you teach it, and the benefits that people see? I'm asking a lot of questions, but
Yeah, I'd
let's
be
do it
happy
all.
to. So it came about because, like I said, I've been coaching almost 20 years, and over time, I just realized that the same approach that my clients were taking to lose weight, get off medications, have more energy, get stronger, do all the health things, was also helping them thrive at work and
Mhm.
reach personal goals and have healthier relationships. And I realized that it's not unique to health. It is broadly applicable to any goal that you want to reach. So the first piece of it, the F, is figuring out and consistently doing what I call the big rock habits. So whatever goal you're trying to reach, whether health or career related, there are a handful of behaviors that are going to generate the majority of the results. What we typically do is spread ourselves way too thin, trying to do everything, even the stuff that doesn't matter a whole lot. And as a result, we never get a ton of momentum because we got too many balls in the air and we're spread too thin. So by figuring out what those big rock habits are for your goal, you're able to get rid of all the noise and just hone in on that handful of things. When you do, you're better able to figure out, how do I make this easy to do on an ongoing basis?
Mhm.
So when we're looking at health, we're looking at, eating the right number of calories for your goal, eating enough protein and fiber, hitting a step goal, so you're just generally moving throughout the day, getting in some strength training, making sure that you're resting and recovering. When you focus on just those things, instead of, should I be fasting and how many carbs should I be eating and do I need to go keto and should I go plant-based and like all of this stuff, you feel way less overwhelmed and you feel a lot more confident that, okay, I can check these boxes most days, and that's going to get me the majority of the way. So what that might look like in your career goal could be to figure out, what are the key metrics that my superiors are going to be looking at when it comes time to get a promotion. So why don't I devote my energy to those things instead of getting really bent out of shape about something that like nobody's really paying much attention to or won't have a very big impact. So that's the F. The I goes back to something that we were talking about a minute ago. It's increasing the support system that you have around yourself.
Mhm.
So that can be everything from coaches, mentors, peers, people who are going to build you up and become this best next version of yourself. So maybe that's a personal trainer, maybe it's working with a dietitian, maybe it's seeking out someone in your company and saying, I would like to be in your role in the next 3 to 5 years. Would you consider
Sure.
mentoring me?
Mhm, mhm.
And getting those people on your side so that when you have those moments where you're not sure you can do it, you have people to build you up. When you're not sure what to do, you have people to ask. When you need a shoulder or a high five, you have those people. Trying to do it alone, you can probably do it, but it'll be a lot easier and more enjoyable if you have support. The two T's are treating yourself with compassion
Mhm.
and taking responsibility for your actions. And I lump those together because I feel like they're two sides of the same coin. What I see, especially in women and especially in high performers, is that we tend to default to a kind of all or nothing approach to things. If I can't do it perfectly, then I shouldn't even bother at all. We're our own toughest critics.
Yeah.
And if we are less than perfect, we are really hard on ourselves. And we end up with this sort of like the herky jerky starts and stops, right? I'm all in and then I fall off. I can't maintain it all. And being compassionate helps you just understand that you're human and you're imperfect and it's okay. And you don't have to try to be anything that you're not, because you are enough and you have what you need. And then the responsibility is helping you actually take that and turn it into productive action. So not just like always letting yourself off the hook, oh, it's okay, try again next time, but more so learning from those, failures or those shortcomings and figuring out what's my takeaway from this? How do I use this to make myself better in the future?
Mhm.
And I truly believe when you have those four components, not only you're going to knock your health goals out of the park, but you're going to realize that it applies to your next promotion. It applies to, whatever outside goal you have boils down to those four things. And once you know the framework, then you can break down whatever goal you have.
That's beautifully said. And I like that it's so relatable. You can use it for any goals you have, fitness goals, career goals, or business goals. And I love acronyms because it's easy to remember, right? So, as we're coming to the end of the episode, and this is going to be aired in January, where, everybody's goals include a shape or fashion of I'm going to exercise more. And probably by the time this is aired, you already have not followed through your goals. I'm gonna be honest, right? So, and it was very interesting that you said that men are more likely to stick into their goals and women are not. So, as two powerful, inspiring women's here, one message do you have for the listeners, for the ladies listening today, to help them, even if they fell off the wagon already? How do you get back into it?
Oh, great question. Something I read in a book a long time ago was about how we use the term I'm off track or I got derailed
Mhm.
when we're referring to things like, I didn't get my workout in or I, didn't eat the salad I meant for lunch. But originally, those are used to describe actual train wrecks where a train gets derailed. It causes, probably deaths. It causes millions of dollars in damages. It's a big deal. You hitting snooze again? Not a big deal.
Yeah.
I think it's important, like, the language we use matters because if
Mhm.
you're talking in such, like, kind of inflated language, "Oh, I got derailed again. I'm off track. I gotta back out, I'm off the wagon." It makes yourself feel bad. And just like we were talking about, it's hard to make yourself do stuff when you feel bad. So this is where the compassion comes in. And I just really want to remind you that the path is not a straight line from A to B. The path is more like hiking with, like, a little bit of trail markers. There are times where you're cruising and you feel good about it, and then next thing you know, you're like, "Hang on a second, I feel like I saw that tree a little bit ago. Am I going in
Well,
circles?"
we need to rephrase it to saying we're taking the scenic route. This is what I'm saying.
That's exactly it. This is just what it's like. Nothing has gone wrong. You are not defective. This is just what it's like. Everybody has ups and downs and, roundabouts and side steps, and it's all part of it. You don't have to enjoy it. You don't have to like when you feel like you've gotten knocked back a couple steps, but just accepting, like, this is what it's like for 100% of people, I think is really comforting. And then this is where the compassion and the responsibility comes in of it's okay that it's happened. And also, it's my responsibility to try to get to where I'm getting in as efficient a way as possible. So if I keep making the same mistake, what can I do about it to not? If I feel like I keep losing my way, how can I support myself better? What do I need to be more successful at this? But that's all you ever have to do is wipe the slate clean and move forward. And I want to add one other thing because I feel like I spent years in this kind of cycle where you feel like you start the day off pretty well, and then at some point you quote unquote blow it, and you're like, well, I already blew it, so the rest of the day doesn't matter, and then I'll try again tomorrow or on Monday. Something that can really help with that is thinking about your day in quarters, the way you would like a sports game. And just because you're down at the end of the first quarter or down at the half doesn't mean you just walk off the court and say, like, well, all right, we blew it. You still show up, you give it your best, and sometimes you come back and win, or at least you don't lose by as much as you thought you might. So if you have that sort of pattern of saying screw it midday, that can really be a game changer.
That is actually a great visual tip. This is such an important and empowering conversation, Esther. Thank you so much for being in the podcast today. Where can people find you?
Thank you so much for having me. This was an awesome conversation. I am most active on Facebook and Instagram. It's just my full name. I have a podcast called To Your Health, and I also published my first book in the fall of this year. It's also called To Your Health. And if you have a health goal, I would check it out. It breaks down everything we've been talking about really, really into the nitty gritty of exactly how you do these things, and more importantly, how you address the things that stand in your way. So if you are interested in crushing your health goals this year, check out To Your Health.
And don't forget that prioritizing your health is going to help you do what we teach in this podcast, which is to lead intentionally. Until next time, I hope you get into that treadmill or eat healthier. Lead intentionally. Bye bye.